Mustafa, a Lebanese man who had spent most of his life in the UK, was driven by an unwavering pursuit of wealth. He believed his purpose was to accumulate money. With a passion for art and history, he turned this interest into a business venture. He saw Nigeria as the perfect place for his entrepreneurial ambitions. In Nigeria, Mustafa found a rich cultural heritage, including stunning art, landscapes, and beautiful women, often undervalued by the locals. He capitalized on this ignorance, buying art at low prices and selling it to UK customers at a significant profit. Operating an online store, he expanded his reach globally and stumbled upon a miraculous discovery: a medallion in Akwa Ibom State, hidden within a mysterious monastery. This monastery was unlike any religious institution he had encountered. Its rituals and practices intrigued him. Mustafa, recognizing that Nigerians were resourceful but not particularly inquisitive, embarked on a quest to unveil their secrets. Over 16 months, he gained the trust of the monastery's residents, discovering a pristine golden medallion they guarded, worth 50 million naira, which they called the secret of the gods. In Mustafa's eyes, the residents seemed foolish, and their gods even more so. Despite his own greed, he decided not to involve similarly greedy individuals in his schemes. Instead, he sought out Clifford, a man with the right blend of determination and desperation to assist him in his quest for the medallion. That evening, Clifford arrived in front of Mustafa's residence after getting out of the cab. Mustafa, although of Lebanese origin, was often mistaken for a white man due to his fair complexion. Clifford approached the cab's driver, who was trembling as though afflicted by a neurological condition. He contemplated ending the man's life, but Gaul, the entity residing within him, simply desired rest and sustenance for now, sensing more entertainment in the near future. He released the cab driver, who promptly drove to the police station. The imposing gate stood locked, and Clifford began to knock, signaling his arrival. Inside, Gaul left Clifford's body and awaited the gateman, who was slowly emerging from his room. The malevolent dark entity subtly infiltrated the gateman as soon as he opened his door, compelling him to unlock the gate without raising any questions. Clifford entered the compound, and the gateman remained motionless. It seemed that the malevolent presence derived some satisfaction from its host. With a swift, fatal strike, Clifford broke the gateman's neck and proceeded into the building. With his wife and 2 kids residing in Lebanon, Mustafa relished his time with Nigerian women of varying backgrounds, shapes, and sizes, ensuring the best among them occasionally visited his home. This evening, a 27-year-old beautiful lady kept him company. Mustafa did not employ live-in maids. They typically visited during the day to perform household chores. Clifford knocked on the door, with Mustafa casually assuming it was his gateman seeking some favor. He had been contemplating replacing the gateman due to his frequent requests. As Mustafa peered through the slightly ajar door, Clifford pushed it open forcefully and entered. Mustafa, initially expecting his gateman, was taken aback by Clifford's menacing appearance. Clifford's disheveled appearance and blood-stained clothes sent a shiver down Mustafa's spine. Despite his reservations, Mustafa inquired about Clifford's whereabouts and the reason for his absence. Clifford's response was cold and demanding. He wanted food. Reluctantly, Mustafa led Clifford to the kitchen. The young lady was preparing 2 bowls of rice and beans. Clifford pushed Mustafa aside and violently shoved the girl out of the way, seizing the meal as if he hadn't eaten in days. Mustafa attempted to intervene, but Clifford's eyes, filled with an eerie darkness, froze him in his tracks. The room felt charged with a malevolent force. Clifford devoured the food voraciously, his audience too terrified to move. Mustafa couldn't believe the reports about the sinister black smoke were true. It was embodied by Clifford. Once he had finished eating, Clifford guided Mustafa and the bewildered girl to the living room. He commanded them to sit, their fear rendering them immobile. Clifford wasted no time and demanded his money. Mustafa stammered, explaining their agreement regarding the medallion. But Clifford's response was chilling. He approached the television, took a long axe hanging as decoration beside it, and terror began to engulf the room. The girl's terror overwhelmed her, and she believed she was witnessing her own demise. Clifford, her living nightmare, led her to the center table and made her lie down. A sinister smile played on Clifford's lips as he spoke, reveling in the situation. He had eaten, and the prospect of having the writer in his grasp was gratifying. With the two trembling hostages before him, he casually declared, "You know what? I don't need your paltry money. You'll pay me with a far greater price." Without hesitation, Clifford ruthlessly swung the axe, cleaving her skull into two with a sickening thud. A gory torrent of blood erupted, resembling a grotesque river on the table. While Mustafa was repulsed and horrified, Clifford reveled in the gruesome act, taking sadistic pleasure in the carnage. Mustafa, overwhelmed by the ghastly sight before him, could bear no more. He lurched to his feet and made a frantic dash for the door, propelled by sheer terror. In a macabre twist, Clifford flung the axe with chilling precision. Its lethal edge found its mark, piercing Mustafa's back with brutal force. The white man crumpled to the floor, writhing in agony as he fought for his last breath. Approaching the dying man, Clifford retrieved the axe and with a merciless stroke, severed the white head from its now lifeless body. He took the severed head with him, allowing a sinister trail of blood to drip onto the floor as he scoured the house for the bedroom. Clifford yearned for rest. The night's horrors had taken their toll on him. He planned to slumber with the severed head as his eerie companion. His twisted dreams revolved around capturing the writer, forcing him to locate the elusive medallion, and subsequently punishing him for unwittingly becoming an instrument of the capricious gods, making Clifford's life a living hell. Anticipation welled within Clifford, for he couldn't wait to return to the malevolent realm of the gods where he truly belonged. There, he could continue his reign of chaos and darkness. Every gruesome moment delighted Clifford, who was gratified that Gaul, the sinister force within him, reveled in the bloodshed as well. That night promised to be Gaul's most malevolent and satisfying on earth, as they delved even deeper into madness and depravity. Angela absorbed their stories with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. These weren't just her friends, they were her newfound lifelines. The love and care they showed her were unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Sandra's kindness and Eken's warmth had created a haven in her turbulent world. However, she couldn't help but wonder why Ekena had intervened when that man was beating her. Didn't he understand that she deserved it? In her mind, she was meant to endure such punishments. She questioned why he had risked his own safety for her sake. Hadn't her mother's death been caused by someone trying to protect her? Did he want to meet the same fate? Their unwavering kindness left her bewildered. Angela had been spared from beatings for a while, and the events of that day made her realize that her world hadn't truly changed. Maybe it would never change. Yet the love and care Sandra and Ekene had shown her in such a short time overwhelmed her. Why had she been drawn to Ekene from the moment she saw him? Perhaps it was because he admired the loving and kind Sandra. Angela had noticed the subtle difference in Sandra's demeanor when they entered the room together for the first time. It was brief, but Angela had keenly observed it. Ekene was someone she liked as well. He was a different version of her father, the only man she'd known in her life. Both were strong, rugged, and tough. But Ekene had a softness her father lacked. She hadn't known that she could ever be loved. How could she express her love for them without feeling awkward? It had been so long since she spoke that she wasn't sure how her words would sound. She had internalized her feelings for too long, closing herself off from the world. Yet, these two were coaxing her to open up once more. They were showing her a different side of the world. She had refused to hand over the object because, in a strange way, she felt like she deserved to be punished by anyone who wanted it. But she didn't want Ekene to hurt her. She didn't want him to become like her father. So whenever he asked for it, she gave it to him. Maybe deep down, she truly wanted to be loved. Maybe she didn't really want the beatings. Angela was thankful that they were somewhat like her. Both had experienced the cruelty of life. She hoped that finally, things would take a turn for the better for all of them. Drawing closer to Sandra, she leaned on her and rested her head on her body. Ikena's head still lay against her bosom as Sandra wrapped one of her arms around Angela. In this moment, they all found solace and support in each other, forming an unbreakable bond of understanding and care. Angela had become their pillar of strength, and she embraced that role with all her heart.